Hello, class. Today we are discussing Thomas Jefferson and his legacy and what we should learn and look to as we study Thomas Jefferson. Jefferson was opposed to a strong central government. He gave too much power to the people in the government. That's what the whole American Revolution was about. He didn't like that strong government. This can be seen in his presidency. He practiced what he preached. He didn't go in and try to take advantage of his power. He didn't try to expand the central government's power. He continued to show how powerful the people were, and to show that the people were actually the ones in charge of the government. Unlike it is today, how the government really doesn't listen to the people all that much now. It's more about who can fill the pockets of the politicians. Jefferson often defended his role as the author of the Declaration of Independence. On the Library of Congress tells us this, and at key points in his life, he drew up and lists his achievements, and on the verge of his death, he decided to design his own gravestone. As it states, author of the Declaration of Independence and the Statute of Virginia for religious freedom, and father of the University of Virginia. Though critics questioned his role in the writing of the Declaration of Independence and objected to his emerging role as a symbol of individual freedom, and insisted upon the authorship of the Declaration and reasserted his moral opposition to slavery. Jefferson, the issue of slavery with Jefferson is often looked at as something strange because we see that sometimes he can be against it, sometimes, well, he didn't say anything about being against it a lot of the times. And that Jefferson issue of slavery comes to a breaking question in America, and it's such a big question in America and American history. But this question is, was America really ready for the abolition of slavery at that time, whenever they created slavery, or whenever they created this whole new government and created how everything was supposed to be? Were they ready for this? And that's what a lot of the founders had to had to decide. Was America ready for this type of movement? And at that point in time, I don't think that they particularly were. We can see whenever the Civil War was over and Abraham Lincoln abolished slavery, that Mississippi, it took them a long time to recover from their depending on slavery. And that's about where our colonies were at this time. Whenever they were writing out the Constitution and writing out the Declaration of Independence and everything, there was such a need for slavery. I'm not trying to defend that. It was a terrible institution, but it is certainly is a difficult question to be asked. And in Jefferson's life, there was no easy answer to anything that came up and came out of what he had to decide to do. But the Miller Center states that Jefferson will always be celebrated as articulating the American national creed, the fundamental and universal principles of self-government that he set forth in the Declaration of Independence. At this time, those very principles, most notably that all men are created equal, have been turned against him, as successive generations of critics have condemned him as a hypocritical slave owner. As we know that he struggled with this issue. But what I see as Jefferson's legacy, and my personal opinion, is I think that if we study it and look at it, he'll show us how this government really is supposed to be ran. It's supposed to be ran by us and not by people trying to call the shots in Washington. It's supposed to be the people that are voting for these people to go in and represent us. But they no longer represent the good of us. They represent their own personal gain. And that's very much what Jefferson would be against. And if he were around today, he would not be happy with how this government is. Thank you. Thank you for listening to me.